They didn't know I was awake when they said it. We'll flip a coin. Loser gets mom. Before we begin, what country are you watching from? And just out of curiosity, what time is it for you right now? Wherever you are, we're so glad you're here. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. I was lying in the guest bedroom at my son Daniel's house. The door pulled mostly shut, the hallway light casting that familiar soft yellow line across the hardwood floor. I'd been drifting in and out of a restless sleep, the kind you fall into after days of feeling like an afterthought. Then came the voices. We'll flip a coin, Daniel said, as casually as if they were splitting a dinner check. Loser gets mom. My daughter-in-law chuckled. I told you this would happen. We should have figured it out before she moved in. I can't deal with her in the mornings. She stares at her coffee like it owes her something. She just sits, said my daughter Susan, sits and watches me clean. I swear, I can feel her judging. Because you're always late picking up the kids, added Lisa, the youngest of the three. She's just old school, you know? Judgy and tired. No offense, but I can't have her in my house either. Their voices overlapped, then dropped lower, but the damage was done. I stayed perfectly still, staring at the floral curtains that hadn't been changed since the mid-90s. A forgotten box of diapers rested in the closet. No one had meant for me to be here permanently. They were figuring it out, what to do with the leftovers of a woman who had raised them. I felt like an obligation no one had budgeted for. I'm 78 years old. I have 3 children, 6 grandchildren, 2 knees that ache when it rains, and a collection of vintage teacups no one wants. Once I was Margaret Pierce, Maggie to those who knew me best, a woman who managed a household, held PDA meetings in her living room, made pot roasts without recipes, and kissed scraped knees while keeping her own dreams tucked quietly under her pillow. My late husband, Richard, was a man who liked his shirts starched and his opinions louder than mine. He passed 4 years ago. Peacefully, they said. I didn't cry at the funeral. I was too tired. After he died, the children began their concerned shuffle. Don't stay alone too long, Mom. Daniel had said, you'll get lonely. Susan offered a guest room. Lisa sent Uber Eats twice and thought that covered her part. None of them really meant for me to move in. But then came the fall. A simple slip in the bathroom. A hairline fracture in my wrist. Suddenly, I was a liability. They rotated care for a while. A week at Daniel's, 2 at Susan's, a chaotic weekend at Lisa's apartment where her cats hissed at me like I'd trespassed. Eventually, Daniel got the short straw, or maybe the long one. Hard to tell with them. The arrangement was never spoken out loud. I just didn't leave. I tried to make myself invisible, woke before they did, wash my own clothes, took slow, quiet walks. I didn't touch the thermostat or rearrange the cabinets. I swallowed the comments about how much cream I used in my coffee, about how I took too long in the shower, about how I left crumbs on the counter. Sometimes they forgot I was in the house. I heard things I was never meant to hear. Do you think she even notices how awkward it is? Lisa had asked during one of their sibling calls on speaker. She just lingers. It's not like we asked her to fall and break her wrist. Susan replied, I swear, if I have to explain FaceTime to her one more time. She's old, not deaf, I wanted to say, but I said nothing. The day of the coin toss, as I came to think of it, something changed. Not in them, in me. I got up early the next morning, made breakfast, ate in silence. Daniel grunted a greeting as he passed through the kitchen, reading his phone. His wife barely looked up. No one asked how I slept. I could have told them. I didn't. I'd memorized the grain in the ceiling paint instead. That afternoon, I opened the old wooden chest at the foot of the guest bed. It still had my things, my real things, not the clothes I pretended to wear or the reading glasses I didn't need. Tucked into a soft navy sweater was a worn envelope with a name I hadn't said out loud in nearly 50 years. Celia Watkins. We were 18 when we met, at a church picnic. Of all places, she wore denim overalls and freckles, and I thought her smile looked like trouble. She thought I was too serious, too careful. We spent 2 summers talking about places we'd never been and things we'd never say out loud in the light. But we said them anyway, in letters, in a clearing behind the old library, in the spaces between rules. When my father caught wind of it, he threatened to send me to a convent. You will not disgrace this family, he said. I married Richard 6 months later. She moved to Oregon. I heard she married briefly, then didn't. 10 years ago, Celia sent a letter to my sister. I never replied, not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't know how to explain what I'd become, a woman who forgot how to want things. But now I wanted something, or someone. I held the envelope for a long time before dialing the number scribbled in faint ink at the top. My fingers trembled, half with age, half with fear. It rang twice. Then a voice I had memorized said, "Hello, Celia?" I said, "It's Maggie." There was a pause. I could hear the ocean through the phone. Or maybe it was just wind. "Well," she said, and I could hear the smile. "You took your time." Celia lived in a coastal town called Astoria. I'd never been. She described it once, long ago, as a place where the wind didn't just blow, it spoke. And after hearing it again through the phone, I believed her. I asked if I could visit, just for a little while. She didn't ask why. She only said, "Come. The house is old, but it knows how to keep secrets." I left Daniel's house the next day, left a note on the table that read, "Don't worry. I'm not missing, just done being misplaced." I packed a single suitcase and had a cab take me to the bus station. Not a plane. I didn't want the speed. I wanted to see the roads, the spaces between my past and wherever I was headed. The ride took 2 days and a lifetime. At the station, Celia was waiting. She wore a denim jacket over a soft green blouse. Her hair was silver now, cut short, the kind of cut that says, "I no longer care what people think." Her smile hadn't changed. It unfolded slowly, like it was giving me a chance to remember. "You look like someone who just got off a Greyhound bus to change her whole damn life," she said. "Is it that obvious?" I asked. She took my suitcase with one hand and touched my shoulder with the other, only to someone who's done it before. Her house sat on a hill just beyond the water, white clapboard siding, faded blue shutters, and a porch that creaked in all the right ways. Inside, it smelled of lemon oil and cinnamon, not from candles, but from being lived in honestly. There was a room waiting, not a guest room, a real room, with books and a writing desk and a chair that had its own story. She'd made the bed with a quilt she'd sewn herself. Figured you'd want something to belong to. The first few days, I wandered the house like someone trying not to spill. I was afraid to take up space. Old habits. I offered to do dishes, vacuum, cook. Celia waved me off. "This isn't a job interview," she said one morning, placing a cup of coffee in front of me. "You're not here to earn your keep. You are the keep." "I don't know how to do that," I confessed. She sipped her coffee, looked out the window. "Then let's learn together." And so we did. I learned the rhythm of the house. the whistle of the kettle at 6 a.m., the way the floors moaned when the fog rolled in, the soft thump of Celia's gardening boots outside my door. We talked about books, about music, about the things we were never allowed to say out loud when we were young. She told me she'd painted for years, showed me the room at the back of the house filled with canvases of sea and sky and women with fierce eyes. "You painted us," I whispered. "I painted you," she corrected. I cried, not loudly, just enough to finally feel the loss of all I'd buried. One morning, a week after I'd arrived, Celia handed me a small notebook. "Write something," she said. "A memory, a moment, anything you still carry." I stared at the blank page for an hour before writing. They argued over who had to take me in. I chose someone who wanted me. 2 weeks later, Susan called. She'd found the note, left 7 voicemails in her clipped, brittle tone. "We just want to know you're safe, Mom. You can't just leave. You're still our responsibility." It was that last word, responsibility, that made my lip curl. Lisa sent a text. "Are you okay? This is freaking everyone out. You don't just disappear at 78. Daniel called once, left no message. I didn't answer. Not yet." 3 days after that, all 3 of them showed up. In person, I saw them through the window. Daniel pacing near the garden, Susan adjusting her scarf like she was prepping for court, Lisa glued to her phone. Celia was pruning the rosemary bush. "Guests?" she asked. "Sort of," I said. She looked at me and nodded once, like she understood everything I hadn't said. I walked to the gate and stepped outside. My children turned like they'd seen a ghost. "Mom." Susan rushed forward. "Thank God. We were. Why didn't you call?" I held up a hand. "You can stop arguing," I said calmly. "I found someone who actually wanted me." Lisa opened her mouth, then closed it. Daniel looked confused, almost hurt. "We didn't mean, Mom. We were just trying to figure things out. You put us in a tough spot. You put me in storage," I said, like an old piano no one wants to tune. Susan started crying. "We didn't know you felt that way." "No," I said. "You didn't ask." They tried to apologize, promised to do better, to work out a schedule, to include me more. But I was done being rotated like fine china no one ever used. "I'm not angry," I said, "but I'm not coming back." Lisa frowned. "So that's it? You just live here now?" "Yes," I said and smiled. "I do." They left with confusion and guilt trailing behind them like fog. I didn't watch them go. I just turned back toward the porch, where Celia was waiting with a mug of tea and a seat beside her. The day after the children left, it rained hard and steady, the kind of rain that doesn't ask for permission. That just takes over. Celia and I stayed inside. She painted near the window while I sat at the old writing desk in my room, notebook open, tea cooling beside me. I didn't write anything that day. I just watched the inked lines on the page, thinking of all the years I'd spent being small so others could feel big, thinking about my own silence and how heavy it had become. That night I asked Celia, "Do you think they hate me?" She didn't look up from her knitting. "I think they don't know you." "Not really. They know the woman who raised them, not the woman who lived before or after." I let myself disappear. I said quietly, "No," she replied. "You were erased. There's a difference." I let that settle in me. I used to be proud of how little I needed. I wore my sacrifices like medals. I never made waves. I was the kind of mother who baked birthday cakes from scratch and forgave too easily. I told myself that was love. That was duty. But what kind of love forgets that you're also a person? Weeks passed. I didn't hear from the kids again until Susan emailed a link to a senior care facility brochure. Just in case you ever need a plan B. She wrote, no apology, just a backup option. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened a new email and started writing something else, not out of anger, but out of clarity. Subject: let's set the record straight. Dear Susan, Daniel, and Lisa, I'm writing not out of bitterness, but because I finally have something to say that I didn't back then. I overheard you, the coin toss, the whispers, the sighs. I know I became a problem to solve. I won't pretend I was a perfect mother. I know I had my failings, but I gave everything I had. And when I needed you, not one of you looked at me like I was still a person. I'm not angry, truly, but I am done living where I'm not wanted. I am happy now, not in the way you check off on a form, but deeply in the marrow of my bones. I am spending time with someone who sees me, who knew me before I became your mother, and after I stopped being useful to you. That's a rare kind of love, the kind I didn't think I'd ever get back. You don't have to worry about me anymore. I have everything I need. With love, Mom. I didn't press send right away. I sat with it, reread it with my chest tight, then loose. Then I sent it and closed the laptop. That night, I slept through without waking once. Now, the days are slow and full in the best ways. Celia and I take walks every morning down to the harbor, past gulls that shout their opinions into the sky. We buy peaches from the old man at the corner stand. She always picks the ripest, ones like it's a superpower. Some days we paint. Some days we don't speak much at all. The silence here isn't heavy. It breathes. One afternoon, I was folding laundry when she came into the room holding a small wooden box. I kept these, she said, placing it gently on the table. Inside were letters. Mine, yellowed with age, edges curled, some unopened. I read them when I missed you too much. She said, and when I was angry, and when I forgave you. I didn't deserve that. I whispered. She took my hand. You deserved so much more. A month later, Lisa called. This time, I picked up. Hi, Mom, she said. I've been thinking about everything. All right. Can I visit? She asked. Not to convince you of anything. I just want to see where you are, who you're with. I paused, then said, yes, but you'll meet the whole of me, not just the part that packed your lunch. She laughed, but it cracked in the middle. I think I'd like that. She came. She saw the house, the paintings. Celia. She was polite, even warm. When she left, she hugged me tighter than she had in years. I didn't expect apologies from any of them, but slowly they each reached out, in awkward, uneven ways. Susan sent a book she thought I'd love. Daniel mailed a photo of us from the 80s. Captioned, found this. Thought of you. I don't need them to love me loudly now. I just needed them to understand I wasn't waiting for them anymore. Last week, Celia and I planted tomatoes. Think they'll take? I asked. Maybe, she said, but it's not really about the tomatoes, is it? And she was right. It was about planting anything again, about choosing to grow something in a place where I was no longer shrinking. I am 78, and for the first time in my life, I belong only to myself. No coin toss required.